Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market. Let's talk about what happens in the market today, what we can expect moving into next week and maybe even the rest of September and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc., well, I do have a YouTube membership where, again, I share all my thoughts, post updates every single day as the market is trading throughout the trading day, options flow, etc. For just $3 a month, includes all my updates on Tesla stock, again, TA, options flow, etc., and also broader market updates as well, like, QQQ, SPY, etc. $5 a month adds NVIDIA to that, and $7 a month adds non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA stocks to that as well, where I share other stocks in the market essentially that, well, they're setting up kind of nicely. Watch for these potential situations. Something nice could be happening here soon. So again, if interested, again, all that is below in the description. I would love to have you there. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day up, actually, pretty, mixed day in the markets today, up and down, kind of all over the place, right? This time QQQ actually outperforming SPY for once, which is a good sight to see. But yeah, Tesla definitely a pretty strong performance today across the board, especially relative to most of the other Max 7s, even outperforming Google for once. Overall, a good sign. Overall, good sign. Obviously, this is definitely based on the fact that Elon's compensation package got pretty much announced this morning. I think it was like 7 or 8 a.m. or something like that, Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, obviously this is off of that the back of that, but nonetheless, still a constructive move. Like I mentioned many times, I do believe Tesla is overall bullish, right? I do think Tesla is overall bullish. The daily is looking bullish. The weekly is looking bullish. Pretty much everything I look at is bullish. So let's go over that. What are the signs telling me that it's bullish, right? So let's just talk about all that stuff. First and foremost, we have the exponential moving averages all bullishly crossed. We have the 9 above the 21 and the 21 above the 50. Sounds pretty good to me. Then we have the MACD, it's not very green, but, green nonetheless. MACD is not as useful when we're chopping kind of sideways like this for quite this amount of time. But nonetheless, hey, we'll take what we can get at this point, right? So we have all those signs that are pointing to, bullishness. We have the stochastic back above 60. I can go over like many indicators. Super trend broke above this red over here, which was a concern for me, to be completely honest with you, but it broke above it, which is good. And now you can see it turned back to green. So even super trend is bullish. So a lot of signs are bullish, and as if that wasn't enough, we are, technically speaking, I'm going to go on the weekly for this, in a bullish pattern, right? This being, of course, a rising triangle pattern, which I mentioned yesterday, and we're definitely still in it. Now, the question is, well, okay, so Tesla's bullish, but is it finally ready to actually make its way higher? Is it ready to break out of this pattern and go, well above where it is right now? Well, not maybe yet, right? It's close, I will admit. It's close, but I'm not fully convinced that it's ready just yet, right? Essentially, what I want to be seeing for Tesla to really be convinced, what is that one noise? To really be convinced is the fact that it needs to break above the low 350s and hold above the low 350s ultimately, right? Which, for instance, a weekly closure, you can see above this kind of range right here. You can see, we have a lot of candle wicks up here, right? We've closed pretty much around this level before, but we've always wicked into this general range, but we never can really close a candle. Now you can make an argument we're kind of closing a candle there now, but 350 and change, it's just not, it's pretty good. It's just, is it good enough is the question. I'm not super convinced just yet. But again, we have arguably a bullish engulfing weekly candle, right? So there are a lot of good signs developing, right? And to me, it's more of a matter of when, not if, Tesla breaks out of this pattern and ultimately heads higher. Now, again, even if we reject from here, there is still a chance, kind of the worst case scenario from a bullish perspective, that we just trade within this chop range over here, because technically speaking, there is a lot more room in this pattern still, right? If we do actually get a rejection from here, if we start off next week, in the red, for instance, like Monday, for instance, we start red, et cetera, then yeah, we can definitely look for a potential rejection here once again, and we could potentially even several more weeks, maybe even a couple months, trade within this sort of open space, if you will, that's still there sort of on this bullish pattern. But the point I'm just trying to make, and the point I want to make very clear, is that even if that happens, unless we lose key levels, which I'll go over very soon, I do remain overall on the bigger picture bullish on the stock. Now, if we break above this level, I do think Tesla, at the very least, will revisit the 380s. That's like my bare minimum target. I'd be shocked if we don't see that, to be completely honest, which even if you wait for like a break and hold above the 350s, let's say you enter at, 354 or something like that, even that will still give you like a nice 8% return, right? And I think that's like the bare minimum. But this pattern is very big. It's a very bullish pattern. And I would be shocked if we don't ultimately go higher, maybe even to fill this fair value gap sort of around this general range all the way up here, closer to like almost 430. That would be kind of like my second-ish target. So it would be a very bullish breakout. It will be a very bullish pattern. To me, it's just a matter of when, not if, but I'm not fully convinced that that when is now. Let's see though. Let's see, right? Let's see how Monday opens up, right? I think Monday and Tuesday, especially Monday, will be very important to see if there's any follow through, if there's any bullish news over the weekend. That will be very, very important to kind of, see how it, ultimately develops, if you will. So let's continue monitoring that, but I just want to make it clear, I do overall, I do lean bullish still, despite even if we reject from here, maybe short-term bearish, of course, but overall the picture is still bullish unless we lose key levels. And the key level to lose for bears, if they really want to gain control once again back into the stock, and for bulls to pretty much lose control, this trend line, pretty much losing this trend line, which essentially, honestly, now that we made technically a small higher high over here, ever so slightly, to me now, losing this low right around here. If we pretty much lose this low right here, mid 320s roughly, that's bearish. To me, that's gonna be bearish. That most likely means that we now go from higher highs to higher lows to now making instead a potential sweep, and then we lose a key level, which was the pivot point down here, and we make a fresh low, and we lose the trend line, and we fail the pattern, and we lose the EMAs. That would be very bearish. So in my opinion, I've watched the mid 320s. That to me is like major red flag warnings. If we break below that, you better hang on to your hats, because we're going for a ride, unfortunately, to the south. Let's just say that. So again, that's kind of the main levels to watch for overall moving forward on Tesla stock. But again, if we do reject from here, don't be surprised if, we get more premium chop all within this massive range right around here. That's kind of my bigger perspective on Tesla stock. Now, as usual, I like to go over the broader market as well. Let's start off with, let's start off with QQQ actually. So the bulls actually did come in swinging, right? Now, this could have been a bad day, right? This had potential to be a very bearish resolution today. For instance, we not only broke above, which is good, so we are really starting to put a dent from a bullish perspective into this potential bearish head and shoulders pattern. I wouldn't say it's fully gone just yet, mainly because I want to see several days above this range, pretty much the mid 570s, but it's a good start. It's a good start. But this could have been very bearish. You can see we ended up going well below where we closed, which if we closed at the lows of the day, that actually would have been very bearish, because that would have printed a bearish piercing candle. That would have been a false breakout. That would have been very concerning. But I do want to see a couple more days. I do want to see a couple more days, especially because stocks like NVIDIA are still looking kind of sussy to me. And it's just a matter of, will it be enough to bring the market down with it or not? That's kind of my main question right now. So even though the bulls are stepping up where they needed to, and they are holding levels that they definitely needed to, right? I want to see how the next couple of days, like the early next week, unfolds around this general range. So if we start losing 575 again, start closing dailies below 575 or lower, especially the low 570s on the Qs, to me, that'll be very concerning, to say the least. And then losing this range down here around 560 would be like, that's probably not very good, guys. We're probably coming down to retest previous all-time highs closer to 540 or slightly lower. But if the bulls continue holding on to this range early next week, the next couple of days or so, that's going to be a pretty good sign. That to me tells me that the bulls, maybe they are really actually ready to go higher, maybe even fresh all-time highs easily, right? That would be kind of what that would tell me. So let's continue monitoring that. SPY kind of in the same picture over here, looking a little bit stronger. Actually, maybe not that much stronger. I thought it would be a little bit stronger than the Qs, but SPY actually closed in the red, which makes it a little bit less interesting. And it does make this candle pattern look a little bit almost like a bearish piercing candle, but not so much. So I don't have a really good insight on SPY here, other than the fact that it's still technically holding the 921 exponential moving averages. Usually the market, like the broader market, like SPY and Qs, they're really good at holding the 921 EMAs, especially the 21 EMA. If you see the market below the 21 EMA, that's probably going to be bearish. If you see it above the mark 21 EMA, it's probably bullish. So we are still holding on to key levels, so it's not too bad just yet. But the MACD is making a bit of a bearish divergence, whereas the market, for instance, in SPY in this case is going higher, the MACD is now actually going lower and lower and lower. So it is going the opposite direction. So, that plus September seasonality does make me a little bit on the more cautious side. But until we really start losing key levels, until SPY, in my opinion, really starts losing the 21 EMA, for instance, like meaningfully below it, SPY starts losing like the mid 630s, for instance, or Qs in this case, the 560s, I should say. I'll definitely give the bulls the upper hand here still, right? I think this isn't a time that you get bearish. Maybe it's a time you lighten the load a little bit for sure, but I wouldn't say it's the time that you just get bearish, right? We need to see more bearish signs for the market to really get bearish, which we can still get early next week. But as of right now, I would say the bulls are still hanging on. Honestly, I would definitely say the bulls are still hanging on, and they're not rolling over just yet. So let's continue monitoring that day by day. Let's go over to the options flow on Tesla stock very quickly, right? Let's see what kind of options flow came in for Tesla towards the end of the day. So definitely more bullish than bearish, absolutely. But the bears, you can see, still almost 30 million premium. The bears are definitely not giving this up, right? They're not ready to kind of, let this stock get rallied off to the, 380s or higher just yet. For instance, in the last, about hour of the day, there was some decent bearish flow, bullish as well, but definitely bearish as well, right? You can see a lot of these blue sizes right here implies that the fact that then again, never mind. These are all for this Friday. So I actually wouldn't take those as serious as I thought I would. So never mind about that. They all expired today. So yeah, I would actually argue the bulls maybe are actually taking a little bit more control than I expected. Those were mainly for today's expiration. There is this one interesting one, 250K someone bought, 265 puts for next week. I see this happening a lot, sometimes on NVIDIA, sometimes on Tesla, sometimes on both. Someone just buys, and it's always around 10,000 to 12,000 contract sizes. I don't know who this is or what's happening. I've seen this happen many times, and every single time for the past like maybe 4 or 5 times I've seen this happen, nothing happened. It's been just pretty much a false flag. Maybe maybe someone is just consistently gambling because this is extremely out of the money and it's a weekly. Like it's $100 almost out of the money, right? That's very out of the money, very aggressive. Pretty much someone's lighting 250K on fire. They're pretty much lottoing this money. But I've seen this happen many times over. So maybe once it finally hits, it'll make up for all the ones that, they probably lost money on. But, it's worth mentioning, but I also would absolutely take it with a grain of salt. It just seems like someone is just gambling and hoping that one of these weeks Tesla just, for whatever reason, tanks really aggressively and they print quite a lot of money. It hasn't happened yet though, so I would definitely take it with a grain of salt. Absolutely, no questions asked. But all in all, that's kind of how I see Tesla right now, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.